have to do a shout out to Merrick because this guy just amazes me. I hope you all noticed that the artwork is his original artwork, which is absolutely phenomenal. Thank you. All the work that you've done. And if you see those great, beautiful B Oregon license plates that we have for our state, this is the man who designed them and won the award to have it be the one that's produced for us. So, thank you all for being here, first off, and learning about all of our pollinators in these little short stints of info. And my most important question for you is, how many of you here would love to make a big difference by doing absolutely nothing? I mean, who doesn't want less to do, right? So there are several things that we can do by truly doing nothing. And I'm going to go just a little bit chronologically in that, and kind of our first national plan and opportunity is to participate in the Lights Out program. So we have, in Portland, we have the Lights Out Portland. You can go to that website and sign the pledge, learn more about the importance of Lights Out. And that is during the peak flyway times of migrating birds. And I'm going to say also a lot of insects too. So it's not just the birds. They don't really talk about the insects on the website. But our first peak flyover time is April 15th to May 19th. And then in the fall again, it is September 19th to October 19th. And what that means is turn your lights off. Turn your porch lights off. You can keep lights on in the house if you need to until you go to bed, but pull down your shades. And the reason for this is because these birds and insects, they navigate by the stars and the moon to get to their destination. So when we've got all this city light pollution, it throws off their navigation, and then it draws them into urban areas, and then they get kind of just stuck in all of our massive artificial light pollution that we have. So that's a huge thing that we can do. And just to give you an example of the impact, in Chicago, one building, so one huge, downtown skyscraper building, they noticed an 80% decline in bird strikes on windows once they took the Lights Out pledge. 80% decline in bird strikes. That's huge, and that's one building. So, another do nothing is, of course, with our pesticide reduction and preferably non-use, is the whole weed and feed. Just don't do it. Because not only are you adding pesticides, but I've got a video on my YouTube channel that shows how all of these weed and feed little pellets are all over the sidewalk, they're in driveways everywhere. Who's walking on the sidewalks? Dogs, humans, kids are playing, they're playing in the grass in the yards and so on. They're picking up that nasty pesticide, bringing it in the homes. Our animals, our pets who are outside, and our wild beings as well, they're grooming themselves. So they're taking it into their system. That's another great non-thing you can do. There's also No Mow May, which is a great program. And that is keep your lawnmower in the garage or in your shed until June. And the reason for that is that we have so many insects that are putting their seeds into flower heads, on plant leaves and so on. Just let them be. We've got one statistic I read is that up up to 80% of bees are, our pollinators, are getting killed by doing this earlier mowing of our lawns. So you can greatly help the bees by not doing your lawn mowing for a while. Also with that is one of the first, I'm sure seeing it in abundance in my gardens, and that is the dandelions are really just gorgeous right now. So eat your salad, eat your dandelions. If you're not putting weed and feed and other junk on your yard for at least 3 years, that's kind of my rule. And the flower heads, the buds, are also starting to come up in the dandelions. And that's one of our first pollinator happy plant that we can provide. It's kind of an early, when you say that's one of the earliest ones, Marcia? And native, local, happy, and keep those dandelions in your yard and other flowering local native plants too. And we tend to also want to, let's get in and do yard cleanup. You know, it's looking kind of ugly because it's dark, there's not really coloration, there's not enough green yet. We want to spruce it up, and we can spruce it up by leaving our little piles of, you know, shrub cuttings, small branches, especially in the wintertime or late fall when we're doing some of that pruning, is leave a few piles. You know, you can leave them on the outskirts, but if you ever walk by one of those, you'll notice how many little birds are going in and out of those little brush piles. And you're giving them habitat, you're giving them a little bit of shelter. So don't be so eager to clean up so quickly. I absolutely love mason bees, and I know we're really trying to focus on butterflies, but we've got a lot of butterflies, and mason bees have just become a real favorite of mine. And there's so many easy, fun things you can do to encourage mason bees to come into your area, your yard, your gardens. And I brought some props, because I love props as opposed to a PowerPoint. And providing habitat nesting for mason bees can be as simple as taking a piece of 4x4. That's all this is. And drilling holes. The diameter of the holes is very critical. The spacing is critical. The depth is critical. I've got a lot of, this is not a commercial, it's just a matter of letting you know there's a lot of information about mason bees that I've included on my YouTube channel that you can certainly take a look at to give like the specifics on making. Yep.
Is that cleanable? Can you clean that out?
You don't need to. The bees will.
Well, okay, but everything I've ever read about that, it's very important to clean them out every year because of the parasites and the everything. But you're saying if you had that, you would not need to clean it out because you're not going to get parasites in there, or you're not going to get into bad.
I'm not doing it.
There's multiple schools of thought on that.
Yeah.
So like I subscribe to the I'm not gonna do that one.
Because I've always wanted to do that, but then I think if I'm going to do this, I have to be a responsible mason beekeeper.
Right.
I have to do this stuff, so go ahead and do it and just not, and just, they'll take care of it, or?
Well, if you had structure out in a non-cultivated area, right? I don't think they're gonna get Lysol out and, you know, swish out their you know. I always try to come down to what would natural habitat, what would they do, what do they do in their own natural habitat. So I don't, and like this woman said, there's schools of thought, you need to disinfect it and all that business, but they keep coming and filling mine up all over. So they can be as simple as, like I say, this piece of 4x4 to something more fancy. You know, you have some bamboo lengths here on the bottom that they can put their wonderful larvae in, and then they mud over the opening of you are familiar with mason bees? Okay, so lots of people. That being said, providing a mud source close to where you have your nesting boxes or your houses is really critical. And here's my use what's available. Thanks to a large limb, it broke the bowl on my bird bath a couple of years ago. And I thought, well, this is really, I don't really want to throw this out. So it has just the right angle as it sits to make a little bowl for mud. Just grab some soil, put some water in it, and they'll happily take that. And for not only mason bees, but other bees and other insects, is to make a little watering station for them. So all this is just a shallow kind of high plate that I had and extra with some rocks, some moss, and those rocks give them the structure that they can land there and then dip down and drink as opposed to dive in and die by drowning. So, interesting to note tonight, because there are lots of cells in here that are definitely full, and be careful where you are stepping because one of our fellows decided that it was a good night to come out. So that's what Amy brought over on the paper. So he either climbed back in to stay in a little bit longer because it's a little bit cool, or he may be cruising around.
He's flying around.
Is he flying around?
Yep.
Yeah, he's flying around your light above you.
Ooh, poor guy.
There it is, lights out.
There it is, lights out. Yeah, indeed. But there's so much that we can do, you know, with the mason bees. They're so flipping efficient. It only takes, I'll do it as a quiz. How many mason bees do you think it takes to pollinate a 1 acre orchard of fruit trees? An entire acre of fruit trees. 250 to 500, that's it. That's pretty powerful pollination, right? I also want to just give a bit of scoop for how important it is for the mason bees, the proximity of their water and their mud, and to also the flowers that they're going to be pollinating. So this is not hundreds and hundreds of feet. This is, around 200 feet. Closer to the nesting boxes is where I like to keep the mud source and the little watering bowl because they're working hard. Give them a break. Let them have what they need. And lots of diverse flowers. Different color. Yes, like Renee was speaking of, that long stretch, the longest stretch we can get of actually blooming plants that they can, not only mason bees, but all of our pollinators can utilize for food and helping the pollination. The other do nothing point is have some areas in your yard that there's nothing planted, just bare ground. So it's just so, it doesn't have to be a huge bedding area or plant site, but just a bit because we have so many insects that are ground nesting. And you probably know which varieties, I don't know, Merritt, but so many varieties of bees in particular that are ground nesters. And I got a video of, it was active last year, that had some very big ground nesting bees, and to watch them, it was faster than an airport. It was just nuts watching them go in and out and in and out. I have no idea how many there were in total. They were using this nesting hole, but it was really cool to see. And don't freak out about mason bees. Y'all sound really familiar with them, but they are so friendly and kind. you can just stand right up next to nesting boxes of them, and they can just fly. They really don't care about you. They're not aggressive, and I mean, you might get a little bit aggressive if you're up messing with them as they're trying to create more spots for their larvae in the cells. But there's so much that we can do and make such a big difference by doing nothing. And I just really feel that's important. And doing it, of course, accurately and well, but also consistency. And you know, if you're going to start mason bees, if you can continue to put those nesting boxes out, fabulous. I've had to, from experience, I bring my boxes in, once all those cells are full, I take them down and I put them in just impenetrable bags, wrap it up and keep them in my woodshed. Because the red shafted flickers in particular were coming, and you know, I was in my office and it's like, what's in that heck? Because I have a couple of nest bugs of these guys right outside my office. I couldn't see anything, couldn't figure it out. And I finally got a good enough look outside my window very carefully, and here's this red shafted flicker just absolutely taking every single cell apart. I want that food. I want dinner. I want lunch. But thankfully, going to work on getting an inhibiting kind of frame, hopefully, on the nesting boxes so that it can keep the birds out but still give access for the bees. So I'm sure that's, I can talk for around this stuff, and it's probably time. So thank you so much. Thank you, Amy.